they are doing to tackle the changing dynamics of terrorism. How much have Nigerian security agencies and indeed Nigerians learned from their engagements with Boko Haram so far and other gory happenings around the world? What is the role of the citizens in helping to address the changing face of terror?
Questions, more questions. These are some of the questions we'll be expressing our expert to provide answers to today on Good Morning Nigeria.
Now, in our second conversation, we shall discuss the outcome of the 51st ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. Now, the meeting took place in Monrovia, Liberia. President Faure Nyasigbe of Togo emerged the new chair of the ECOWAS group, where Nigeria was conspicuously absent.
Well, the summit has generated ripples within the sub-region because of some of the issues that were considered, which include, of course, the requests for membership of the body by Morocco, as well as the presence of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and other requests for observer status by Tunisia and Mauritania.
Well, that's the outlook of Good Morning Nigeria today, reaching live, as always, on the network service of Africa's largest television network authority. That's to say, the NTA, by the way. My name is Kingsley Osalolo. I welcome you to today's edition of the program. Listen.
My name is Blessing Abu. It's our midweek edition, and we hope you'll stay from now till the end of the program, having all the fullness of the package. Well, the package will include companion segments, which by now you know the newspaper review, business, sports, foreign and entertainment news. Well, right now it's time for the morning news, and here's Tessie Justin Bissell. It's over to you, Tessie. Good morning.
Thank you, Blessing. Good morning, Kingsley. Wow. Good morning, Nigeria, and here's the news. Acting President holds Bayelsa delegation on brass fertilizer project. The federal government has commended for the new approach to pursuing integrated development in the Niger Delta region based on partnership and collaboration. Stakeholders in the region are of the view that the policy is opening doors for investors and a boom to the local economy, as well as creating jobs for the youth. This was when Acting President Yemi Osinbajo visited a delegation from Bayelsa State led by the governor, Seriki Dixon, in respect of a proposed brass fertilizer and chemical project soon to take off in the state.
Which is good for stability and security, and which will promote development, is when we create jobs, when we bring in big ticket investments, and then create jobs, and people have things to do, and we affect the economy positively, and create other legitimate options through which young people can survive. Some of the crises you see here will be addressed. And this is a good way to begin to address that.
Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has sought approval of the Senate for external borrowing plan for the 2016 to 2018 as approved by the Federal Executive Council. National Assembly correspondent Waziri Zayanu reports that the $1.5 billion loan is meant for projects in 10 states of the Federation.
State Development Policy Operation, DPO, Kaduna State, $250 million. Ogun State Development Policy Operation, $350 million. Ebonyi Ring Road Project, which is to be co-financed with Islamic Development Bank, Ebonyi, $70 million.
And to legislative matters, the House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to amend the Copyright Act of 2004. The bill, which has been passed for second reading, seeks holistic review of the act with emphasis on upward review of fines and penalties for construction of the act.
To provide for stiffer penalties for contravenance of the act, which will in turn serve as a deterrent.
Our young men and women to go into this industry, there is a need to strengthen our copyright laws.
In other climes, a producer of a movie can empower a lot of people because their legislations are protective.
It appears 95% of the constitutions that we now use in Nigeria are all fake.
As Nigeria moves towards agricultural development and food sufficiency, adequate storage facilities to minimize wastage is one of the keys to success. This is why the visit of the Minister of State for Agriculture, Senator Heineken Lopobiri, to access the proposed 100,000 metric ton silos project at Igbogene Yanagwa is important and timely. The project has been under construction for several years.
Account for over 50% of what is produced in this country, and we want to, as a government, try to see how we can reduce that loss to the barest minimum.
You have to be cost conscious and make sure that whatever you do, you are going to have value for the solution you have provided.
In view of the contemporary climatic challenges and impact on agriculture and other sectors of the economy, the Nigeria Meteorological Agency is to increase its operational stations across the country. This was made known by Director General NIMET, Professor Mashi, at a sensitization workshop for state meteorological technologists in Abuja.
The issue of the density of our network, and if you should go by the recommendation of the WMO, that between 100 to 300 square kilometers, you must ensure that there is at least one observatory. Then it means, technically speaking, we should have nothing less than 9,000 stations across the country. I will utilize all opportunities that are there to ensure that the density of our stations is increased tremendously.
All is now set for the proposed June deadline of digital switchover in Kwara State for the North Central region of the country. Director General of the NBC, Ishak Modibo Kau, disclosed this while inspecting facilities put at the integrated television service for the digital switchover.
Each one is 1,500 naira, and that is because it was subsidized. As we move forward, we're going to have more market-driven approaches to the sale of those boxes, but they're going to be in such a manner that Nigerians can be able to afford those boxes, because Nigerians have the right to information, and the Nigerian government is not going to abridge that right.
Wife of the President, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, Tuesday morning returned to the country from the United Kingdom, where she visited her husband, President Muhammadu Buhari, who is on medical vacation. State House correspondent Aliu Kabir reports that Mrs. Buhari explained that the president is recuperating very fast.
I thank God for my safe trip where I visited my husband in the UK. He's doing well, much better than he left Nigeria. And also he thanks Nigerians for their constant prayers.
And that's it on the news. Blessing and Kingsley will be back right after this break.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Winning in hot and dry conditions is hard. Causes the body to sweat, which attracts germs that are easily passed from one person to another.
What keeps you so cool, man?
Dettol Cool combines Dettol's protection and an invincible icy feel. For super cool confidence, use Dettol Cool.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. Time now for the business report. Amidst rising unemployment, economic analysts express confidence of a rebound by the Nigerian economy in 2017. Let's find out more details with Seun Ogunloye.
All right, time now to look at developments in the world of business, where Nigeria's unemployment rate rose to 14.2% in the fourth quarter of 2016. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, disclosed that the rate rose from 13.9% recorded in the preceding quarter of the year under review. According to the data recently released by the Bureau, the latest unemployment rate is 4.2% higher than the rate recorded at the fourth quarter of 2015. The NBS noted that as the number of unemployed people in the economy is growing, the number of underemployed people is also rising. According to the report, the underemployed rate rose to 21.0% in the fourth quarter of 2016 from 19.7% recorded in the third quarter of the same year. Analysts said the rise in the unemployment and underemployed rates was due to the negative economic growth recorded by the nation in the year 2016. Meanwhile, economic watchers have continued to express optimism on the rebound of Nigeria's economy in the course of the year 2017. Lending his voice to this discourse is the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, Uche Oji. The NSIA boss expressed confidence that the year 2017 will bring about the return of foreign investors back into the country.
We are starting to see investors coming back. In the NSIA, we tend to see ourselves as a barometer because most foreign investors who want to come into this market come to the NSIA. And we have seen an increased level of interest in various sectors, people looking for co-investments. And the part of that is because many of them see asset prices as cheap, but beyond that, they also see the potential of this economy. You know, you really cannot be said to be in Africa if you're not in Nigeria. That is fact. And so we're starting to see people come back and show interest. And so these things are lead indicators, in my opinion, that 2017 will be a significantly better year, in my opinion, than 2016 was.
And on the capital markets, in a bid to arm investors and the general public with more knowledge of the workability of the stock market, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NSE, has launched a knowledge-based platform known as X Academy to provide education services to individuals that want to gain a better understanding of various aspects of the capital market. X Academy, according to the NSC, offers a wide range of course geared towards bringing the knowledge gap of dealing members, issuers, investors, and the general public about the product and services of the capital market. The establishment of X Academy is consistent with the exchange tradition of pioneering far-reaching innovation within the Nigerian capital market. It also feeds directly into the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, NFIS, which was launched by the federal government of Nigeria in the year 2012 to reduce the number of adult Nigerians who are financially excluded from 46.3% in 2010 to 20% in 2020. Speaking at the unveiling of the platform at the exchange, Mr. Oscar Onyema, Chief Executive Officer of NSC, said that the X Academy would provide individual and businesses with a robust and effective array of training solutions that will ensure participants are abreast with the trends in the rapidly evolving financial market. The programs offered by X Academy will be facilitated by seasoned and certified subject matter experts with both local and international exposure to practical experience. And next is graphical summary of trading figures on the floor of the Nigerian capital market at the close of Tuesday trading session. And that's the package on the business news. Thanks so much for watching.
All right, thank you so much, Seun, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us, we'll take a look at the headlines on the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
Bayo Toyobi joins us again this morning for the Papers Review. Good morning to you, Bayo.
Good morning, Blessing. Good morning, Kinsley. And good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Blessing, you want to kick off?
Okay,
yes.
don't mind. I'll start off with this day. Just above the nameplate for this day, you find this stories. Unemployment rises to 14.2% in Q4 for 2016. There are two riders to that story. 55 million Nigerians lost jobs under the administration, and reports Kogi, Benue, Bayelsa, 18 other states, all workers' salaries and pensions. The story continues on page 10. South Africa plunges into recession. That story is trending on page 12. Back on the leading for this day, court orders permanent forfeiture of ECOWAS billions. That story starts right there but continues on page 8. Aisha Buhari returns, says husband thankful for Oshibajo's loyalty. You'll find that story, the continuation of that story on page 8 as well. Still related to that, the authority has some of the stories just above the nameplate. Court orders for feature of Ikoyi Towers 13 billion naira to federal government. That story is on page 2. And still at page 2, lamentations as FCDA demolished Abuja Newspapers Distributors Center. That story you find on page 2 as well. Leading for the authority, Oshibajo seeks National Assembly approval of $1.5 billion loan for Enugu, Ebonyi, others. You find more details on page 2 of the paper. Kingsley?
Now, let's take a look at the Daily Trust. Daily Trust immediately below the name flag. NEC proposes monthly electricity tariff review. NEC stands for the Electricity Regulatory Commission. So NEC proposes monthly electricity tariff review. Details of that story can be found on page 13 of the Daily Trust. Lead story says, with a double-decker headline, why Justice Ademola can't sit on cases. And that's according to the federal government. Of course, the story is sourced from the grounds of appeal filed by the federal government against the judgment that was entered in favor of Justice Ademola after he made a no-case submission. President Buhari will return soon. That's according to Aisha. And you see the photograph there on the front page showing the wife of the president upon her return from the UK yesterday. Now, also there on the front page of the Daily Trust, you have 3 headlines. Federal government to build $1 billion ICT company, and that's attributed to Oshibajo, that's the acting president, page 3. Reps set to work on Senate version of petroleum bill, that's on page 7. And petrol remains 145 naira per litre, and that's attributed to PPPRA. That's on page 14. Bio.
Yes. Let's start with the story of Haji Aisha Buhari, who returns to the country yesterday. She said the president has recuperated fast and he is far better in health now than when he left Nigeria 3 weeks ago. She also conveyed the president's gratitude to Nigerians for their fervent, constant prayers about his health and also for supporting the achievement of the mandate of his administration. This day described Haji Aisha Buhari's message of her husband commending the acting president for loyalty and holding forth as a vote of confidence. This is at variance with accusation of nepotism and exploiting the illness of the president leveled by some regional groups. Some aides of the president have dismissed such criticisms as baseless and are those who are using religion and ethnic coloration to sow the seeds of discord. Reuters is reported by this day to say that president is likely to return at the weekend. Meanwhile, talking about the case you reported at the Federal High Court, Lagos, the Federal High Court has now ordered final forfeiture of the cash that were recovered on April 12 at the Ikoyi Osborne flats. It may be recalled that the sums of $43.4 million, 27,800 pounds, and 23 million naira were recovered. The Justice Muslim Hassan granted interim forfeiture, allowing 14 days for owner to show up. But since no owner showed up, apart from NIA owing up in public but did not go to court, the court has now finally ordered a final forfeiture. Also at the court, Ali Ndume is to know his fate on July 4th, whether or not the case is standing trial for his involvement in the activity as a sponsor of Boko Haram. The trial commenced in July. He was arraigned in December, and the trial commenced in July. The State Council says that they have enough evidence of his link with Boko Haram. The defense say his contact with Boko Haram came when he was acting on behalf of government as a leader of the presidential team, and the vice president then was aware of it. Talking about the courts, 6 judges among 8 that were suspended last October are expected to resume duty today. However, a presidential aide had indicated that one of them, because of appeal at the Court of Appeal, cannot resume. It may be recalled that the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Mohammed, had indicated that judges were overworked. And so you can imagine if they had to work with 8 judges less since last October. Meanwhile, there have been several opinions expressed by lawyers about the contention about the judges resuming. Many lawyers support NJC and under the presumption of innocence. Some even say that the NJC has suddenly woken up to its constitutional and moral responsibility. Others say that the federal government needs to apologize to the judges for their embarrassment. However, other judges say that the agency that arrested the judges were only performing their constitutional duties and there is no need for an apology. However, a special assistant to the president, Mr. Okoye Obla, says the NJC recall of judges was indirectly promoting corruption. He persists that the NJC was aware of several petitions against some of the judges. He added that some of those judges have not even answered to the petitions. He says he is aware that they will soon be charged to court. And what will happen? Will they now be suspended when they are charged again to court?
Well, these are very weighty questions that you have also raised, but some other persons have, as you have indicated, argued about separation of powers and the appropriate authority to deal with erring persons who belong to each of the arms of government. But let's take the headlines also from the front page of the New Telegraph. And just before we do that, from New Telegraph, let me just refer you to a story that is on page 3. It's not promoted on the front page of Daily Trust. For those, of course, who keep track of arms deals around the world, this story will be of interest to them. Adnan Khashoggi, Saudi billionaire arms dealer, dies at 82. That story is on page 3 of Daily Trust. He died in London. It's very well reputed for his lavish lifestyle. Now back to the New Telegraph, front page of New Telegraph from top to bottom. Senate cartel controls Nigerian banks, with the writer accusing CBN of connivance in high interest rates. And unemployment rises to 14.2%. That's attributed to the National Bureau of Stats. Latest of that story on page 35. Now, below the nameplate, you have 4 other headlines. Kidnappers reject parents' offer, insist on 100 million naira. That's on page 8. Of course, that's the latest kidnap incident in Lagos. And then stop defecting to APC, Dixon tells PDP members. Oshibajo seeks approval for $1.5 billion loan. And Oshotimehin, 100 countries condole with Nigeria. Lead story says, robbers attack banks, kill 4 policemen, shoot Bowen University student. That's on pages 8 and 9. And gunmen kidnap Chinese expatriate and kill civil defense official. Now, also at the foot of the front page of the New Telegraph, Aisha Buhari is recuperating. That's on page 2. We already discussed that. And lastly, a health story. Eating late at night raises risk of diabetes and heart disease. That's on page 10 in greater detail. All right, but yeah, let me just take, we have the Punch newspaper as well. I would just take a look at the front page of the Punch. If we can have that on the screen, we'll just take some of the headlines very quickly from the Punch newspaper. Of course, you can see the forfeiture order there, and then you also have another headline, Biafra TV and Boko Haram radio broadcasting illegally. And then, of course, you have the list story there talking about Nigeria's current debt profile. Let's go quickly now to the second half of the front page, the bottom half of the front page of the Punch newspaper. Ghost workers. Now, EFCC arraigns family members for manipulating federal government's payroll. EFCC arraigns family members for manipulating federal government's payroll. And groups give Igbo 3 months to leave the north. That story is also on the front page. And then you have others there, 1,600 residents just so to buy Kaduna government house. And 2.1 million Nigerians lost their jobs in 2016. That's according to NBS. All right, Bayo.
Yes.
Very briefly.
Yes, the youthful exuberance of 6 youth groups that gathered in Kaduna needs to be called very quickly by security agencies. The coalition of 6 groups have called for and asked Igbos residents in the 19 northern states to relocate within 3 months. They have, in the same vein, called on northerners resident in the south state to relocate back to the north. They claim that their action is necessitated by persistence of the actualization of Biafra by separatist group and the sit-at-home order that was carried out on 30th May, which impeded the activities of other people. Ohaneze Ndigbo, the socio-cultural group body of the Igbo, has called urgently for action by the country's security agencies. Deputy Publicity Secretary Chuks Ibegu urged the DSS and the police to take immediate steps to forestall such a plan. He says that he opined that the spokesman should be arrested because for his treasonable statement. Now, exuberance of the IPOB and MASOB, all these youths, they forget that they live in glass house and they should desist from picking up stones.
Probably they are much younger than 50 years. So
yes.
We have no indication of what happened in this country in 1966 and then 67 up to 1970. Bayo Atoyebi, we'd like to thank you for being with us today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be another day.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Don't forget, we have 2 items to discuss today. Global spike in terror activities, plus recently concluded ECOWAS Heads of Government meeting.
Hear the call of change, stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh Geruola. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Now, our first part of the conversation this morning is taking a look at the fallout from the ECOWAS summit. Now, to set the tone for our discussion, let's join Ngozi Chude, who has put together this background report.
ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, was established on May 28, 1975, after the signing of the Treaty of Lagos. Consisting of 15 member nations, comprising of 10 Francophone and 5 Anglophone countries, the aim is to promote economic integration across the West African region. Over the years, the regional bloc has been so much active in the promotion and the achievement of economic integration in the region, as well as ensuring peace among member nations. Such integration and search for peace in the sub-region orchestrated the creation of ECOMOG in 1990, with a forced assignment in Liberia to quell the civil war ravaging that country. 42 years down the lane, this regional bloc has been seen as one of the most integrated and powerful blocs in the world too. However, the recent 54th ECOWAS Summit of Heads of State, held for the first time in Liberia on the 4th of June 2017, was one unique meeting that appeared to be controversial. Major highlights of the summit include the address by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the election of Togolese President Faure Gnassingbé as the new chairperson of ECOWAS, and the agreement to accept Morocco, a country in the Maghreb region of the continent, into the West African Regional Organization. These, observers say, explains the absence of Nigeria, a major financier of ECOWAS and the leading power in the regional body. The absence of Nigeria is said to be a protest and likely to create more division in the organization. The question that has been in the minds of people is, why will a country like Morocco, situated in the northern part of the continent, decide to join the West African Regional Bloc, knowing fully well that Morocco has once intended to join the European Bloc years back and had removed itself from OAU only to return to the African Union recently. Many fear that Morocco might be nursing an ulterior motive which will at long run serve only its interest. Israel, meanwhile, has also asked for an observer status, just as Tunisia and Mauritania have also made similar requests. What does all this portend for the future of ECOWAS? Guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be providing answers to these questions.
Ngozi Chude, thank you very much there for that background report. Now we have guests with us here in the Abuja studios to provide further elaboration on the issues that you raised in that background report, plus of course questions that my colleague and I will be popping to our guests. First, we'd like to welcome, there are two familiar faces, of course, on Good Morning Nigeria. One is the former Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Idi Hong. Dr. Hong, a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
And then we also have with us Ambassador Suleiman Dahiru. Dahiru, of course, is a former Nigerian ambassador to Sudan. Ambassador Dahiru, a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, and then we have Ambassador John Shinkaye. Ambassador Shinkaye, of course, is a former Nigerian ambassador for Ethiopia and permanent rep to the African Union. He is currently the chair of the Association of Retired Career Ambassadors here in the Federal Capital Territory. Ambassador Shinkaye, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you.
Okay, listen. Well, let's begin the conversation. I mean, from the obvious point, namely that we had the 51st session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, Nigeria, biggest country in terms of contribution and population to ECOWAS, was conspicuously absent. What could have happened and what does this portend? Let's begin with Dr. Idi Hong.
Thank you very much. I think there is a misunderstanding here. Nigeria was not absent. Nigeria was represented at ministerial level because it's a summit of head of states, which is true, but knowing fully the condition of our president and also the acting president, who has a lot of commitments in his hand, I think it's right that he should send delegations. So we had a very good and strong representation in the summit, which is equally enough for it to represent the country. I don't think that people should be thinking that Nigeria really absented. No, we have participated fully in the activities, we have participated in the deliberation, and all decisions that we are taking with Nigeria inclusive.
Ambassador Dahiru, what's your take on this?
Yes, I think the foreign minister made a statement that Nigeria was represented. So we take it that Nigeria was represented. But if we are talking about Morocco, we have to look at
No, sorry, we'll come to that.
Morocco.
We'll come to Morocco
Okay.
presently. Just wanted to deal with the issue of Ambassador Shikaya. Let's get your take on this. I mean, it was crucial. It was going to be a crucial meeting. Were there domestic issues that frustrated the acting president from being present, at the summit, or he could have? Some persons have argued flown in and flown out, within 12 hours. So.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to agree with my two colleagues. First, that Nigeria was not absent in the summit because we were represented. We took part in the official and ministerial levels, and we had a representation at the summit as well. People can say that the level at which we are represented at the summit was not at the highest level because the acting president wasn't there. At this time, no one would have expected the president to be there. The foreign minister could have been there also, but he wasn't. We were represented by our representative in the Embassy of Nigeria in Monrovia. I'm not part of the foreign ministry presently, but I will ask myself, why were we represented at that level? I think the question we should be asking is Nigeria, or was Nigeria making a statement by limiting its representation at the summit to the level at which we were? And if that was the case, what was responsible for this? This is what we should be interrogating ourselves on.
All right, gentlemen, let's now Ambassador Dario already started tinkering the area of the Moroccan accession to full membership, having observed for some time. Now, what exactly is Morocco seeking in ECOWAS? There were questions about it being on the northern fringes of the continent. Why the interest in the sub-region bloc? Dr. Ong?
I want to tell you that I have not really understood their real motive, but I am encouraged strongly because ECOWAS has now proven its mettle, that it has shown that it is one of the strongest bloc of regional communities in the whole world. One. Two, ECOWAS has also taken responsibility, and the cohesion between its member states is stronger than any other community except for the European Union. Thirdly, I think it is about seeing how committed the member states are into this, and ECOWAS has a potential. Number one, the market. Number two, the friendship. Number three, the importance of the community in international fora, where maybe for negotiation, for dialogue, and for bargaining. And most importantly, Morocco has been in the cold, isolated for some time. So I think it is high time they decided now to start looking for friends, especially with their coming back to the AU, and now maybe since they are not very much closely linked into the Arab League in the North African bloc, and that one is also not so strong like ECOWAS. I think that is the explanation why they have seen there is room for them to come into ECOWAS. And this is not new. People have joined groups and communities outside their own region of geographical location. I think that is what explains the aspiration of Morocco. I think it's a very commendable initiative, and also it gives credit to what ECOWAS have stood for, and we thank God that we are part and parcel of the founding of the ECOWAS, and it has proven that it is a very useful community that has served the sub-regional community very well.
Well, Ambassador Dario, let's pursue this further. Ambassador Shinkai just made mention of aspects of what Nigeria is trying to say with its own limited representation at the ECOWAS summit. Now, what exactly could Morocco be saying differently from what it is supposed to be doing back in the other blocks that is supposed to have been now trying to come into ECOWAS submission?
Thank you. I think for a start, I want to disagree with Dr. Idi Hong. The treaty establishing ECOWAS clearly stated that it is for members of West Africa. Morocco is not a member of West Africa. If we want to bring in a country that does not share border with any West African country, then it means that the treaty has to be changed. And it has not been changed. Therefore, legally, Morocco cannot be a member of ECOWAS. No matter what good intention it has, it cannot be a member. It is already a member of Arab Maghreb Union, which has not functioned. It has not functioned simply because of the quarrel between Morocco and Algeria. Now, if you ask me, as a former diplomat, I will tell you Algeria is more committed to African cause than Morocco. I served in Angola as a diplomat. Algeria came to the help of Angola during the apartheid struggle in South Africa. Algeria was deeply involved. Morocco was not. The question that arises is, what does Morocco want to achieve by joining ECOWAS when it knows very well it is not a member or does not share border with any West African country? When ECOWAS was established in 1975, it was precisely to integrate the economies of the countries in the sub-region and to allow free movement and goods of people within the sub-region. It didn't say free movement and goods within Africa, but within the sub-region, because other regions, other sub-regions have their own economic communities. The long and short of it is that Morocco has no business being in ECOWAS.
All right, Ambassador Dahiru, thank you very much. Now let's bring in again Ambassador John Chigaye. Ambassador Chigaye, there's a point you made, which we will return to after we go around this set of issues that have been raised now. Namely, what statement was Nigeria making by the low level of representation it had at the ECOWAS summit? That's one. We'll come back to it. But the issue of whether or not Morocco could be eligible for membership of ECOWAS and what the undertones are in terms of motive, in terms of acceptability, even in terms of the constitutive authority, a constitutive instrument of ECOWAS. Dr. Eddie Hong has made the point that, look, we have countries that are not geographically situated, particularly in a regional bloc, and they've been admitted. I mean, you also have the Commonwealth, for instance. Mozambique applied to be a member of the Commonwealth, and if you looked at the instruments setting up the Commonwealth, Mozambique was never colonized by Britain.
And
but, but in the case of Morocco, quite some distance away from West Africa, as it were, geographically. And Morocco has also had the practice of in and out membership of the AU. What is exactly in the offing from your perspective as a diplomat?
No, let me start from the point of view of who can be a member of the community. As Ambassador Dahiru clearly indicated, when ECOWAS was set up in 1975, and I had the privilege of being a young diplomat in Lomé and took part in the negotiations that led to the establishment of the community. It was a regional organization. And I have with me here the treaty revising the ECOWAS treaty, and it says in Article 2 that the establishment, the high contracting parties reaffirm the establishment of the economic community of West African states and decide that it shall ultimately be the sole economic community in the region for the purpose of economic integration and the realization of the objectives of the African Economic Community. Two things. It's a regional organization, and the definition in the treaty of region says it means the geographical zone known as West Africa as defined by this resolution. And it also refers to the objective of the African Economic Community and the Abuja Treaty of 1991. And that's the basis on which 5 regional groups were recommended by the treaty, one for each region of the continent. Morocco belongs to the North African region where the Arab Maghreb Union exists. Unfortunately, it does not function for the reason my colleague here has just indicated. There is no reason why we should extend admission to Morocco to an organization that it has no basis of joining. I agree with Dr. Edie Hong to the extent that the fact that other countries outside the region want to be associated with ECOWAS, it's an indication of the excellent work that this organization has achieved, but we must not detract from the reason why the organization was established. We don't know what the real motives of Morocco are, but I say clearly that they cannot be altruistic. West Africa belongs to West Africans. North Africa belongs to North Africans. We should come together under the African Union. We are glad that Morocco has joined the AU, and it will make its contributions to the development of the continent. But we say categorically that Morocco's admission to ECOWAS will be an error because it will disrupt the effective functioning of the organization. And we think that Nigeria, as a major stakeholder in the region, should stand against Morocco. We have excellent bilateral relations with them. We should continue with them. And I think that it is not something that we should gloss over very lightly.
Dr. Hong?
Thank you very much. Let me come back again. Let's put on record that the application is not admission. It is just in principles that ECOWAS community of head of states have accepted their application, and now experts of ECOWAS and the government of Morocco will have to sit down now to develop and understand the protocols that is required for you to be a member of ECOWAS. That is one. 2, this treaty that we are talking about is subject to being reviewed or amended depending on the political decisions of the summits of head of states, which already ECOWAS has sent invitation to the members of the government of Morocco, Tunisia, and Mauritania who are applying to be member of ECOWAS. Thirdly, there are provisions in ECOWAS where, even though not as members, there are other associations or regional bodies that are members as observers or in different types of definition like association or membership. That one is not given to member countries, it is for NGOs or development organizations. I think these provisions are made, and it is in the wisdom of the presidents and the heads of states that they have seen it deemed important, because you can't just wish away somebody who say, I want to be your friend, and you will say, no, I'm not. No, there are provisions. Is Morocco willing to stand and live with our existing protocol of membership of the ECOWAS, which is number 1, free movement of the goods and people of the region, 2, good governance and democratically elected system of government. Thirdly, are you allowing your system to be exposed to security and protection and conflict resolution in your country, just like what we have been doing in the ECOWAS sub-region? These are all issues that are going to be discussed. And the decisions will not be taking place until in December, where another summit will hold. What we are having now is just an application, and it has been accepted in principles. It is now after Morocco and the experts in the ECOWAS have discussed elaborately, that is when conclusively decisions will be taken. And if in the wisdom of the summits of heads of state, they have seen fit that Morocco should come in, I think the text will always be subject to being reviewed or amended. That is feasible. It has been done before, and it will continue to be done.
All right, Dr. Idion, thank you very much. Of course, the summit already is directing that Mauritania. You also mentioned that as a former member, apply for full membership, and that Tunisia, of course, will be given the observer status. Well, there are so many temptations about what one is seeking. Okay, what exactly is the race for the sub-region bloc? Ambassador Dairo, now let's take a look at some of those areas of cooperations and ties. Moroccan King already indicated his interest to actually attend the summit, at least to push forward this aspect of accession to membership. But are the indication of Israeli Prime Minister coming in to the same summit? He declined to come over for the program. What exactly are the different body languages that we're experiencing here?
Let me quote what my former boss said some years ago. He said the tragedy of the black man is that he doesn't know when he is being used. The King of Morocco wanted to personally attend the AU summit. He didn't come because of Netanyahu.
That's the ECOWAS summit.
Yes, the ECOWAS summit. Because Netanyahu was coming. Now, I have made my position clear on Morocco, and I don't want to repeat it again. But as for Netanyahu coming, it is a condescending act to the black race. Netanyahu should go and settle his problems with the Palestinians first. He came and insulted the intelligence of African leaders or West African leaders. $1 billion investment. Now, do we take it that Africa has been so pauperized that an offer of $1 billion for 15 members of ECOWAS is enough to entice them to abandon their principled stance on the Palestinian cause? Remember, AU and its precursor organization, OAU, were fully in support of the Palestinian cause. The same thing with ECOWAS. Nothing has changed for ECOWAS to change its position. And nothing has changed for AU to change its position. And if you remember, last year, when Senegal co-sponsored the motion on the stopping of settlement activities on Palestinian land, Israel recalled its ambassador and didn't want Senegal to send another ambassador. And it also froze all developmental aids to Senegal. So does it mean that African countries can be bought for any price? This is what bothers me. I am an African and I'm proud to be an African. But it pains me when you see some white people coming to think that they can insult your intelligence because they have some money to buy your conscience.
All right, Ambassador Dahiru, thank you very much again. Excuse me, brother Ambassador Shinkaye, you listen to what Ambassador Dahiru just said. What's your take on this? Because, I mean, what was Netanyahu doing at the summit in the first instance? And plus, of course, Morocco itself, the King of Morocco decided to stay. Well, that's the other issue that we saw emerge from the recent something that we should interrogate much more deeply and find out if there, again, are issues that might be of critical concern to ECOWAS going forward.
Well, let me say I fully agree with my colleague Ambassador Dahiru on what he said, both on Morocco and on Israel. And to add that if Morocco has not been admitted yet into the African Union and is already beginning to show that type of arrogance, which is what I will call it, he refused to come because ECOWAS invited somebody else. That's not the attitude I think that we will require of a member of our organization in the future. Secondly, I don't know the details as to who invited Netanyahu to the ECOWAS summit. In the African Union, the list of invitees to the summit who are non-Africans is fully discussed with member states, and they agree whether this head of state one from Latin America or another one from Europe should be invited. So everybody is on board. I'm not, as I said, in the foreign ministry anymore, and I don't know if that process took place in the invitation of Netanyahu to Liberia. If the invitation was not discussed by other member states, then it was the responsibility of the host head of state to have done so. And I talked about Nigeria perhaps making a statement. If I were advising my government, that's the type of advice that I would have given. If we are not comfortable with an invitee to our summit, if we are not first advised about it, then we should not be part of that process. And I agree that Netanyahu's presence was not particularly salutary for the future of our organization.
Dr. Idi Hong?
Thank you very much. I have been following the discussion. I want to say categorically that I'm not a career diplomat, but maybe an accidental diplomat. But what Netanyahu came to do in ECOWAS, Moravia last week was not application for being member. Countries have come as friends or aspiring to be friends of the region. And this is not the first time a president of another country attending ECOWAS summit. I was witness and party to a time when the president of Brazil attended ECOWAS summit in Cape Verde. And things like this do happen. The same thing, even in the meetings you find representation of European Union, US ambassador, some regional bodies coming to participate as observers, or they come for a purpose. It's for cooperation, it's not for membership. And it's relationship building. That is what diplomacy is. I think what is their ulterior motive, it is now left for the diplomats and the community to intelligently assess what are you looking for. Because the whole world now is realism. What are you trying to, are we going to also use Israel in any way possible? You have to. If you are not willing to, if you are not competitive enough, then maybe you have to think about the type of cooperation you want to enter with them. But there is nothing wrong with ECOWAS accepting invitation. All these invitation, it is, I'm sure, because I have been chair of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers. These invitations normally have been communicated to the member countries, and they are aware that you are going to receive a visiting head of state or another visiting community like your own sister community in other parts of the world. I think it is nothing new about that one. What is now left for, while I accept part of what Ambassador Dahiru says about Afro-pessimism or what is it, I think it is high time for us to be very boldly stand up and start negotiating also like other people are negotiating. It is not that we should just withdraw because we have been used in the past, we will continue to be used. No, we have come of age also that we should boldly and strongly stood and define what are our objectives and what are our aspirations as a people and put it on the table and discuss with them.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Hung. Other bold initiative came out from the summit as well. President of Togo for Nasingwe also emerged as the chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States and Government. Where do we see him taking the body to? As in the community of states now, what should be his focus moving forward? There have been other areas of strength.
Thank you very much. I think this thing is just a continuum. You being a president and it's a rotatory slot where after a certain period of time, Anglophone being the head of the summit, Francophone going in. And you are not going to innovate and reinvent the wheel. There is a protocol of the ECOWAS laid down. There is views, there are aspirations and goals of this community. So what you are going to do is to try to upgrade and move the community forward. I think that is all it entails. This type of now ECOWAS standing firmly and religiously to its protocol, whatever this type of discussions that will come in, especially aspiring members, particularly for Moravia, Mauritania, which used to be member of ECOWAS and it withdrew because it doesn't want to comply with the text of resolution of internal crisis and security in their country. I think they have to also take into cognizance that whoever is going to come in have to affirm and because have to live by the protocols of the ECOWAS. This is what the president will continue to do and also make sure that, number one, solving our internal problems in the community. What our challenges, security, the encumbrances on the other protocols that have not been properly translated, and also including the unity of the monetary system and co. I think if he is able to up these aspirations, I think we have gone a mileage ahead of our aspirations.
Okay, Ambassador Shinkai, the strength for Nigeria, implication of us standing our ground on what we need to do moving forward with ECOWAS?
Well, as an association of retired career ambassadors, my colleague will confirm that we have been discussing this issue for a while now. We are not satisfied with the role that our country is playing in the region and on the continent as a whole. And we think that there is need for us to review the way that we have been exerting our influence within the organization. I'm not advocating for Nigeria to dictate to other members of the sub-region, but the actions that are taken, particularly by the Commission, must be watchful of the fact that Nigeria pays in excess of 60% of the budget. There are many decisions that have been taken by the Commission that we think shouldn't have, and we need to put our foot down by ensuring that the resources of all of us, common people, into the organization are properly utilized. We must ensure that we continue to promote our interests within the organization, but also in doing so, I know that we will be promoting the interests of the sub-region. I'm glad that one of the decisions that came out of Moravia is the fact that the ECOWAS Commission will be reverting to a 9-member commission from the 15 that we have currently. I think that it's a good decision, but it also means that we must be vigilant as Nigeria to ensure that we retain a position in that commission as we did until the commission size was changed to 15, when every member.
Thank you very much. Let's bring in again Ambassador Dahiru, what's your take on this? I mean, ECOWAS, as it were, is moving towards a leaner bureaucracy by downsizing the size of the commission as well as reducing statutory appointments. Is this in reaction to the much leaner contributions from members? And what could this also mean in terms of Nigeria's assertion of having its interests or its requests, giving clarity?
Yeah, Mr. Shinkai has already explained. Nigeria does not derive much advantage from its membership of ECOWAS. It pays 60% of the budget of ECOWAS. But major decisions are taken without the input of Nigeria, taking into account the major financial contribution of Nigeria. Now, at one of our meetings of Association of Retired Career Ambassadors, we looked at the totality of the issues involved. And we came to the conclusion that if Nigeria pays 60% of the budget, it should have, on a permanent basis, the Commissioner for Finance and Administration, so that we know how our money is being used. And as for positions, we are not getting what we should get, even if ECOWAS headquarters is in Abuja. And if you extend it to the AU, you find that the advantages that are coming to Nigeria are very negligible. If you take South Africa, Nigeria, and then Libya under Gaddafi, these were the major contributors. But Nigeria doesn't get much out of it. And you find that despite the immense financial contribution of Nigeria, Nigeria will put a candidate for an elected post. And somebody from one obscure corner of Africa will defeat the Nigerian candidate. In my opinion, it is now time for us to reassess the situation we are in. The Americans say there is no free lunch, so there should not be any free lunch with Nigeria. As a starting point, I am of the opinion that the ECOWAS Secretariat or Commission Secretariat should be thoroughly reorganized so that we know exactly what is going on. As for the issue of what can be done to improve the situation, Ambassador Shinkai and Dr. Edie Hong have already said it.
Ambassador Dahiru, thanks. But let's return to Dr. Edie Hong. You're quite familiar with the explosion of expansion of the size of the commission in the first instance, and now they're coming to downsize. Plus, the fact that Nigeria often has not received a commensurate benefit for its financial contribution. What could all of this mean, and how could Nigeria be more assertive in getting due recompense and recognition for its financing of ECOWAS?
Thank you very much. It's true I was familiar with what happened, especially at the verge of the expansion, because when I was chair of the council, this matter came up in the discussions from the councils of ministers of ECOWAS decision. They wanted the expansion. I vehemently rejected that decision. Particularly, we reached a deadlock when we went for summit in Cape Verde, because our argument is that the essence of ECOWAS is not about paying for bureaucracy and logistics.
That's right.
You need to have clearly funds and resources for tangible investments, not to pay for people thinking, because except for Nigeria, most other countries who send their commissioners here, it's a huge improvement in the quality of life and lifeline. So they take it a very serious matter. So I objected to that. When I left, I didn't know what happened, and now they were able to review this thing. I'm so happy to hear that they have now taken decision, because by this expansion, it means huge overhead for the ECOWAS, and now it will mean less amount of resources at their disposal to do serious work with it for the integration of the community. One. Two, it is high time. The failure of Nigeria in asserting its position and also getting the maximum benefits in almost all these multilateral organizations that we are inside is all due to our carelessness. It is high time that bureaucrats and officials, and including at the level of the presidents, we have to now be more realistic in our aspiration and stamp our feet. When it comes to appointments and slots in this multilateral organization, it is ill preparation that normally costs us this. Because actually, for instance, in ECOWAS, there's a problem because there are 5 member countries that are Anglophone, which normally we tend to think the same way, and there are 10 members of Francophone. Normally, they are solidly tied down. And the protocol of ECOWAS says that no matter how small, including Cape Verde, which has less than 1 million population, you have equal right with them. And if it is voting, it's one man, one country, one vote. So it now all depends on how you now up your negotiation and put your card on the table to the member states. And if it means you now are twisting, you can use that. But it is mostly what happens is that we don't prepare early. Some countries now, when they have aspiration for an office, they prepare about 3-5 years before the time comes, because they know. But Nigeria comes 1 month, 2 months to the summit, where these decisions will be finally concluded, and that is when we are running around, when commitments have been entered by countries. So it is now left for officials of the foreign ministry to do their homework. It is not that because Dr. Hong, now I have privilege to the presidency, I should aspire to be a secretary or a commissioner in the AU. No! The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our representative in ECOWAS should always be having in the projection. What are we? When are we going to enter? And all of these things, as I have said the last time, is give and take. Right. You don't ask for too much at a time.
Yes, right. We saw what happened at the AU summit over the appointments, elections and appointments of certain key officials. Let's very quickly take reactions from our viewers through our Twitter handle at NTA-GMN. Dele Jack Solomon has 2 tweets. We'll take them simultaneously. I thought ECOWAS was a regional political and socio-economic organization. Now, this will further isolate Morocco from its neighbor in Africa. And another one says, the presence of any world leader at an ECOWAS summit shouldn't be in the context of tension and controversy. Leaders must learn to be tolerant.
We have the tweet from Mike Ayako. The powerful nations of the world are inversely behind the present predicament with proliferation of weapons leading to belligerence.
And then Austin Edokpoko, ECOWAS is a talk shop. Countries within the bloc have not achieved anything individually or as a group for their citizens.
Well, for Sani Michael Omahaji, says Morocco joining ECOWAS despite being in North Africa is a good omen because it opened doors of more business opportunities. And
Law Alpha C has this tweet: the admission of Morocco in the West African bloc is strange. No thanks to the Arab terrorist inclinations. Mahmoud
Hamad says African nations are forgetting that the AU has a standing policy on relationship with Israel because of its apartheid policy on Palestine. All right, that's the much that we can take. We have already indicated that we have 2 items to discuss today. Another one, of course, which will be a very interesting development around the world, the spike in terror attacks. But in the meantime, we'd like to thank 3 guests who have been with us discussing the outcome of the recent ECOWAS Heads of State and Government meeting. First, we'd like to appreciate the former Minister of State Foreign Affairs, Dr. Eddie Hong. Dr. Hong, always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
We also would like to appreciate Ambassador John Chinkaye. Ambassador Chinkaye, of course, was Nigeria's former ambassador to Ethiopia and permanent rep at the AU and current chair of the FCT branch of the Association of Retired Career Ambassadors. Perhaps there should also be an association of ambassadors, whether non-career ambassadors, so they can have a contributory opinion to make. Otherwise, we appreciate your being with us, Ambassador.
Thank you.
And then also Ambassador Suleiman Dahiru, former Nigerian ambassador to the Sudan. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Good Morning Nigeria, still on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll take our second item for discussion.
Admission forms for the 2017-2018 academic session of NTA Television College JAWS into its diploma programs are now on sale. The diploma programs are in film and TV production, broadcast journalism, and TV engineering technology. Applicants are required to have at least 5 credits, including English language and mathematics at SSC, NECO, or GCO levels in not more than 1 sitting. Application forms can be obtained from the TV College Refi JAWS or at any NTA zonal centers nationwide on payment of a non-refundable fee of 7,500 naira in bank draft in favor of NTA Television College. Completed application forms should be returned to the office of the academic secretary, NTA Television College, or the center of purchase on or before 28th of July 2017. For further inquiries, please call 0806 980 9807 or 0703 660 7155. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you can be.
TV Guide magazine is out with fabulous Fab Funke Akindele Bello, aka Jennifer, adorning the cover. She opens a secret not known even to her family. Find out the secret. NTA turns 40 this year. The challenges, the emerging trends in broadcasting, and the way forward. Weekend Dealer 2. Meet the team behind the biggest deal on NTA. Is food still the way to a man's heart? If not, what else? This edition is hot and juicy. Meet your star faces on screen. Entertainment, fashion, young minds, social media, and great personality.
This is idiosyncratic and heterodox.
Yes, Professor John Bull is on the radar. Find out what makes this program the rave of the moment on NTA Network, and for the prof,
over and out.
TV Guide. Ask your vendors or book your copy at every NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, still your indispensable companion.
All right, you're welcome back. Now, the rising incidents of terror attacks plus the modus operandi of the terrorists have become issues of great concern to not just nations but citizens around the world, as the attacks target civilians, target infrastructure, and the attacks are either coordinated, or as we have seen in recent times, there are lone attackers using all kinds of methods, including low-tech applications for their acts. We join our correspondent once again, Ngozi Chude, for a background report as a prompt for our discussion this morning.
Nothing prepared Manchester residents for these, as what was supposed to be a night of fun turned to nightmare. 22-year-old Salman Abedi had detonated a bomb in the arena's foyer minutes after US singer Ariana Grande left the stage after a performance. In its wake were 22 deaths and several casualties, including an 8-year-old. As Prime Minister Theresa May put it, the UK threat level has been raised to the highest possible rating. True to her words, nearly 2 weeks after, another terror was unleashed. 3 jihadis wearing fake suicide bomb vests struck at the heart of the capital on Saturday, June 3, driving a van into crowds on London Bridge and going on a stabbing spree. In the attack that lasted 8 minutes, 7 were reported dead, while about 48 people were injured. This is the 3rd terrorist attack Britain will experience in the last 3 months. Britain is not alone in these, as many countries, including Nigeria and the Middle East, have been under this weight for years. The speed and increase in these attacks have become worrisome, so much so that nations are at their wits' end in finding a lasting solution, even though these terrorist attacks have over time been linked, seeking to perpetuate extremist, religious, political, or other ideologies. These include groups such as Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, the Taliban, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab in Somalia, Lord Resistance Army, and many others who have spread terror at different levels across the world. The world has tried and is yet to forge a common front to contain all these terror groups at the same time, as some countries have been accused of supporting terror. Several Arab countries that include Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Bahrain, Yemen, and Libya have announced that they are cutting diplomatic ties with Qatar, accusing it of embracing various terrorist and sectarian groups aimed at destabilizing the region. For analysts, this could eat into the economic fabric of the state and the area of oil prices, considering the sensitive tensions. While this dispute is unfolding, Nigeria has continued to look to the end of the Boko Haram terrorism that has caused havoc to the northeast and the country at large, leaving heavy casualties both killed and displaced. While many remain optimistic of the end of terror in sight, going by the progress achieved by the Buhari administration, the question is, should Nigeria relax in the face of the emerging situations around the globe? What level of preparedness should be put in place to tackle any copycat attempt? How proactive and combat-ready are Nigerian security agencies? These and more is what guests will be discussing today on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much there, Ngozi Chude, for that background report. Very pertinent questions that we'll use to kickstart our conversation with three guests joining us for this discussion segment. First, we'd like to welcome another familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria, is former director of the Department of State Services, Mr. Mike Ejiofor. Mike Ejiofor, of course, is also a lawyer. Thanks for being with us on the program.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Also joining us in the studio this morning, we have retired Air Commodore Darlington Abdullahi. He's a former director at National and Military Strategy at the National Defense College, Abuja, and is also the secretary of the Alumni Association. Welcome to the program, sir.
My great pleasure, thank you.
Also joining the team is our security risk management expert. We had him last week on the program, taking a look at the issue in the northeast aspect of terror as well, and the fight against Boko Haram. Security expert management, Kabir Adamo is also with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Gentlemen, when you, in 3 months, the United Kingdom has come under 3 terror attacks. One right at striking at the heart of democracy, which is Parliament. You had 5 persons who were killed there, and just last weekend you had London Bridge, similar in almost orientation. 7 persons dead. In Manchester 2 weeks before then, 22 persons, died, at the end of a concert when a suicide bomber detonated a bullet, detonated with suicide vests. We know of Al-Shabaab still operated in Somalia and parts of Kenya. The Philippines is in the news. The U.S., of course, was in the news last year, when a gay club was invaded by an attacker, and he had, scores of persons who were killed. Here we are. Boko Haram has been substantially degraded, and some will say defeated. But taking a look at what is happening worldwide, and the fact that we've also been through perhaps the worst part of Boko Haram, what lessons should we begin, what lessons and what precautions should we begin to take from what is happening first around us and then elsewhere around the world? Let's begin with Mike Ejiofor.
Yeah. You see, the problem is that terrorism is a global threat, and terrorists are also becoming very daring. We should not be unmindful of the fact that as various governments all over the world are adopting strategies to check the activities of these terrorists, they're also adopting their own strategies to strike. So what it calls for is extra vigilance on part of the people. Coming home, like you talked about the Boko Haram, you see, I'm appalled when people begin to talk about issues of giving timeline when Boko Haram will be defeated. Boko Haram has been defeated. Boko Haram has been decimated. It's not as easy as we look at it. The issue remains that terrorism in many countries, Pakistan, Northern Ireland, they've lasted for several years. So we should also be prepared to stay with it while making efforts to bring the activities to a low level, not completely eliminating it. As we're talking of making successes in the issue of Boko Haram, you can also see the issue of herdsmen, which is even more, they have claimed more lives now than the Boko Haram itself. Boko Haram is restricted to the northeast, but the issue of herdsmen is spread all over the country. And you coming to the London attack, within 3 months you have had 3 attacks. That shows you that these people are organized. They have not told us exactly what their aims and objectives are than to cause commotion, cause unrest and fear among the people.
Well, let's left to right. Kabi, Adamu, of course, last week you were with us when we had our correspondents reviewing their recent experience in Borno and then taking a look at issues arising from taking on Boko Haram. But here we are elaborating now to the global stage, and we have seen what is happening. There are some very well-known parts of the world that have been, under siege, as it were. Afghanistan is one, parts of Pakistan, and then as Mike has indicated, we also have had parts of Europe. But taking a look at what is happening, you see what's going on in the Philippines. What does this mean for us? What does this mean? And as our correspondent said in that background report, what kind of wake-up call is this for our citizens in the first instance, and additionally, and also for the security and intelligence agencies?
I think the important thing to decipher out of the development is what are the strategies, what are the methods, and then more importantly, why this recent developments. If we look at the developments in Western Europe, particularly in London, most of the attackers are homegrown attackers, and to an extent lone wolves attack, except for the last one where three people were involved. Now, what method was used in recruiting these particular individuals? From recent investigation, let's not forget that the investigation is still ongoing, but from what we've been able to decipher, it's through the internet. Most of them, except for 1 or 2 that visited some locations that perhaps they were instructed to act. So I think the most important thing from the part of the authorities is to monitor the movement of suspects, and then of course take proactive measures to prevent the suspects from carrying out the attacks. Now, if we bring it back home here, do we have any database to indicate to us the number of Nigerians that have gone to Libya, for instance, or Al-Shabaab as the case may be? Because remember, there is an ideological linkage between these groups. Jamaat al-Islam al-Dawat wal-Jihad, and to an extent Al-Qaeda, as well as IS, as well as the Islamic State in West Africa province, and then the global IS and the one in Libya. So do we have any database either maintained by the Nigeria Immigration Service or other government agencies to indicate how many Nigerians are operating there? And then do we know when they come back? Because remember, there is chatter, a lot of information suggesting that they are returning, and they are increasing the number of ISWAP that is operating in the northeast of Nigeria. So that is one component. The second component, what mechanisms do we have for monitoring the internet to know the type of recruitment processes that these groups are using? Remember, we've had instances here in Nigeria where prominent sons of prominent individuals have been indicated to travel to some of these countries that are known for terrorist activities. Now, what mechanisms do we have to monitor this, and then to, of course, prevent them from, even when they come back, from further recruitment, and then or even carrying out further attacks? Then in terms of the method that they are used, let's use the example of London, especially this last one. Like the background report indicated, they use commonly available methods. In this case, it was a long vehicle that they used in mowing down ordinary innocent citizens that were out to have fun. What statement were they trying to make? One simple statement: resilience. Remember that there is a global campaign against ISIS happening right now in Iraq as well as in Syria. And of course, successes have been achieved. But the more they carry out these attacks, and the more there is a publicity around these attacks, the more they make that statement of resilience. But I also want to add this in conclusion. We should put this in context. Terrorism, fortunately for us, still retains a very low level of debt, as it were, compared, like Michael Jeffo has mentioned. There are other more deadly threat factors or risk factors that we are living with. One very common one that most people forget is even road travel accident. As far as we're concerned in Nigeria, it's even higher than terrorism. But it's the reason why people talk about terrorism is the fact that innocent people who are not the usual intended target are the ones that are being targeted.
Collateral victims.
Exactly. So that's why I think the issue is more on the front burner of discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Ekomodo Dalitin Abdullahi, yes, you've listened to the other guests. It's your strategy. The act of terror itself is to actually create fear, panic in the populace. And of course, we've had our own share of it. But looking at global trends now, it's as if the more sophisticated it gets. For even the advanced one with all the preparation, what lessons are we taking in profiling the kind of wounds we have here and how to actually contain that, which we have?
Yeah, thank you very much. In, let me say, war situations or the kind of situation we're experiencing right now, there is a need to carry out critical analysis of situations before we jump into attempting to find solutions to them. Take for instance, about 2 years ago or thereabouts, ISIS did claim that about 3,000 of their members had been exported to Europe, through the migrants that were moving in there and all that. Well, they have a purpose. And some of this probably is to carrying out the recruitment and indoctrination of people. And they also check the developments, the counter strategies, used by the security agencies. So in this kind of situation, they develop theirs, just like Mike mentioned earlier, to counter the efforts of the government agencies. It's when they go about buying things that could be used to make bombs and so on, they get easily detected. So their strategy probably now is that of something that will make it difficult for the security agencies to detect them, and that's why they have chosen this current method of using vehicles to ram into people, knife attack, and all that. That's on one side. Talking about the kind of successes, how they are able to achieve this. We also remember that while they probably have not taken care of the influx of people that are helping to indoctrinate people and then the expected outcome, there's been a reduction, like I read, in the strength of the police, police officers in the United Kingdom. And also there's an increasing number of those they have to monitor. Can you imagine monitoring about 20,000 different individuals at the same time, and then reducing the strength of the force as well as reducing the budget? That makes it difficult for them to cope with the situation. And I think we have a lot of lessons to learn from that. First and foremost, in our country, we must know that the security situation, like I've been said earlier, nationwide, widespread, all around the nation, and we need enough of security agencies to be able to monitor the situation. The funding, of course, goes with that. So without this kind of situation, the security agencies might not be able to cope with it. Look at the intelligence operations. The MI5, I would say that most of these criminals have been on their radar. They've been monitoring them for quite some time, but they often go out and still carry out this. So why are they able to do this? Like I said, they have so much to cope with at the same time. So the intelligence of, Italy did warn that, look, one of those people, is quite dangerous and is likely to cause havoc, but yet they allowed them to go ahead and cause that. So our intelligence operations must have something to learn from this. Like Kabir did say, we must monitor particular individuals, that are, continually monitor them and probably find a way of stopping them from going ahead to carry out some of the threats. They have planned.
I come on, Abdullah. Thank you very much. Just one point. We can probably have an exhaustive list of where we've had recent attacks, terrorists, by terrorists. Paris, elsewhere in France. You saw what happened in France. For a period of time, we've seen what happened in Brussels. We've seen what has happened in Germany. Is there a sense in which, I mean, for us back home, some persons might say, well, look, if these things could happen in those societies with the level of their sophistication in terms of intelligence gathering and in terms of the capacity to deal with these matters, you know, how much more can we do? Can we just throw up our hands, Chief Market Joffer, throw up our hands and say, look, whatever comes, let it come?
Honestly speaking, we are in a dilemma. And we cannot throw up our hands, you know, that things will continue that way. That goes to show you, like you rightly pointed out, what database do we have? Are we monitoring it? Like Kabir said, do we have the capacity or capabilities of monitoring individuals or groups? Have we been able to identify the groups even? Of all the incidents that happened, how many arrests have been made? But you see, London, before you know it, all the people are arrested because they have records. We don't have records. There's no database for us to, we don't even know our population. So how do we go about monitoring all this? So we are in a very big dilemma that while government will continue to make efforts, we also continue to pray and call for extra vigilance on part of the people. That is very critical. We cannot just sit down, fold our hands and think that manna will come from heaven. There's no more time for people to think of manna to come out. So let us continue to work, sensitize the people. More importantly, the people must be sensitized to know what, because don't forget that Boko Haram is also affiliated to ISIS. So they might also want to change their tactics in Nigeria. Like Kabir said, people who have been trained abroad, how many of them have we been able to identify to even talk of monitoring? You only monitor somebody you have been able to identify. But if you are not able to identify this, how do you go about monitoring? You cannot put something on nothing. So we have a very serious challenge. Government is expected to play its own part. The people are supposed to play their own parts. And we continue to work. Like I always say, we also need prayers to survive this situation.
All right, Mike Ejiofor, thanks a lot. Let's get the take of Kabir Adamu on this. I mean, let's precisely, you know, how do we wait to do critical national infrastructure, you know, but public places in Nigeria and elsewhere, what lessons, you know, do our stakeholders need to imbibe immediately and then begin to put them into effect?
I mean, to win terrorism, you need to win the hearts of the people, especially the affected locations. And at this stage, I think we need to roll out the countering violent extremism mechanisms. It's a national policy. It's been adopted by the Office of the National Security Advisor, but for some reasons, funding has not been given to, or priority has not been given to those 4 tenets under that. And frankly, one of the aspects of the countering violent extremism is the strategic communication out to Nigerians, for Nigerians to understand. I remember when the president mentioned during his inauguration speech on May 2015, he said that at the end of the terrorist phenomenon, a sociological study will be launched. And I'm saying here that I think that sociological study should have been launched now, or actually a year ago, because it is from that sociological study that we'll understand what the people really, really want. Why are they not supporting, quote and unquote, the military strategy that is out there? You cannot win that war without the support of the people in that region. And the only way to get their support is to listen to them and get them understand that, look, this military component is there to support you. And when they understand that, then they will be supporting the war. So bottom line, the CVE approach, that the countering violent extremism approach, that needs to be launched immediately.
Okay, gentlemen, still taking a look at what to do to deal with issues here and there. For most of the terrorist attacks usually stem from issue of ideology, which will have felt what's this person or aspect of poverty or whatever it is that the terrorists will bring on board to actually create that fear. Dealing with this aspect of ideology, how do we begin to use that at least to debrief the people and actually, since we're not saying we want them to actually support this fight, how do we begin to use that as a form of strategy? Commander?
Yeah, thank you. one thing is, one area that we probably have not been looking very critically at is the fact that when people become very easily susceptible to recruitment by criminally minded individuals and groups, if efforts made by government and so on may not really work.
Are we
for instance, I'm talking about issues of poverty, you know, issues of the high level of unemployment, I mean increasing level of unemployment. So when people get pushed to the wall, they react. And I mean, when you see people all around carrying bowls, I mean, begging for means of survival and so on, I mean, with a token of 500 naira, you see that they will follow you and do whatever you want them to do. And these are still very common on our streets. You know, I mean, these are things we need to look at. Let's talk about the issue of accountability. You know. When the incident happened in London, within a short time, we had information about the people that died, the missing ones, including their names, and I mean all the information required were released. I mean, do we often get this back up? I mean, we need to look at this to assure the people that look, we are on top of the game, and we are really trying to make efforts to address the issues. Ideologies. I mean, they sell ideologies to people, but there are circumstances that make people so susceptible to getting this ideology. I mean, taking in such ideologies. Those are the root causes that we need to address.
Commodore, thanks. Let me just get the closing thoughts of you gentlemen. We are pressed for time. What do we need to see on a global level in terms of country-specific responsibility for dealing with the nursery bed for rearing terrorists? We've seen what has happened lately now between some 5 or 6 Gulf Cooperation Council countries, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, labeling Qatar, and then of course breaking ties with Qatar. But there are elsewhere. We can probably forget about a country like Afghanistan, which, you know, for several decades has been a breeding ground for this country. But there are other countries that seem to be well off, and these terrorists just grow from there and then begin to cause havoc elsewhere around the world. What should be the country-specific responsibility at this level? Mike, Jaffa, very quickly, and then we'll come to
for now, yes. What we need is international collaboration. Just like the terrorists are also collaborating, countries need to come together to collaborate and exchange information, especially in areas of training, recruitment, and also of terrorists. That's very, very critical. And I think U.S. is taking the lead in the fight against terrorism. And I think with that, we'll be able to achieve some result at the global level.
All right, Kabir, Adamu, your thoughts?
I mean, I agree totally with Mike, sharing of intelligence among the global partners. And by this, I mean real sharing, not that you hold, you know, what you think is valuable to your ally, and then you want him to give you. When we share, then we have stronger strength. The other issue, they use certain tenets to preach to, you know, vulnerable people, to recruit them. One prominent one is the Palestinian crisis. The world needs to tackle that crisis. If you tackle that, then honestly, you've removed one very important element that they use in recruitment.
All right, Commodore Darlington.
Regional collaboration is very, very important, particularly in our own region where we have very porous borders and people move freely across the international borders. It's very important that apart from countries cooperating, they shouldn't run away from taking on any member that is found to be supporting acts of terrorism, just as we have seen in the case of Qatar.
All right, Commodore Darlington Abdullahi, former Director of National and Military Strategy at the National Defense College here in Abuja. Thanks a lot for your insights. We also would like to appreciate Kabir Adamu, a security risk management expert. Thanks always for your contribution.
Thank you for having
me.
And
also always Chief Michael Jaffa, retired Director of the Department of State Services, and also lawyer. Thanks a lot for your contribution to our discussion this morning.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for our 2 topics on Good Morning Nigeria. We'll move on now to our complementary segments. Let's go over to our sports desk to check the highlights from what's happening around the sports world.
Super Eagles coach Janet Raw has set his sight on a win over South Africa in Saturday's 2019 African Cup of Nations qualifier in Uyo. Raw acknowledges that the clash with the 1996 AFCON champions will be tough, but is hoping to mastermind a win for Nigeria over their bitter rivals. The trainer also spoke about his delight at the choice of the Godswill Akpabio Stadium. His words, "Yes, we are happy to be here in Uyo. We like this place," wrote to journalists in Uyo on Tuesday. "We won our last 2 games here, so I hope this game versus South Africa will be a third victory." Similarly, Super Eagles midfielder Ogenyi Onazi has declared that featuring at the 2019 African Cup of Nations and the 2018 FIFA World Cup finals remain the major targets of Nigeria. The 24-year-old midfielder believes that the current group of Super Eagles players can take Nigeria to the next AFCON in Cameroon and then to the World Cup in Russia based on the display of confidence and ambition in camp. Nigeria began their quest to qualify for a first AFCON since 2013 when they won their 3rd African title, coincidentally in South Africa, which played host to that edition. And in tennis, Andy Murray will look to make amends for last year's US Open defeat when he Kei Nishikori in the French Open quarterfinals on Wednesday. The Britain 30 lost a dramatic 5-set contest when they met in New York last September. It was only his second win over Murray, who has since taken his tally to 8 victories, having beaten Nishikori in the Davis Cup, Olympics and ATP finals in 2016. After a slow start to 2017, as he struggled with injuries and illness, the world number 1 has found his form at Roland Garros. Also, Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic's French Open quarterfinals were postponed until Wednesday following torrential rain in Paris. As a result of Tuesday's downpours, officials decided to reschedule the first 2 men's quarterfinals. 4th seed Nadal meets fellow Spaniard Pablo Carreno Busta as he aims to move a step closer to a record 10th title at Roland Garros. 12-time Grand Slam winner Djokovic, who is seeded 2nd, plays Austrian 6th seed team.
Let's quickly join Oyeyemi Ajayi for tidbit from the foreign scene.
Good morning and welcome. Kuwait's ruler has traveled to Saudi Arabia for talks with King Salman over a Gulf Arab dispute with Qatar. Kuwait's Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jabbar Al-Sabah is acting as a mediator between Doha and other Arab states which have severed diplomatic and transport ties with Doha. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain cut diplomatic relations with Qatar in a coordinated move, accusing the peninsula of supporting terrorists and Iran. Yemen's internationally recognized government also cut ties with Qatar, accusing it of working with its enemies in the Iran-aligned Houthi movement.
Right now to the United States, the U.S. says it is considering what part it will play on the UN's Human Rights Council, highlighting what it calls a biased stance on Israel. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who made a first address to the Council in Geneva, said it was hard to accept that resolutions had been passed against Israel, a U.S. ally, but none were considered on Venezuela. She also said not enough had been done to criticize Iran, a country with an abysmal human rights record. And that's foreign news. I am Oyeyemi Ajayi. Bye for now.
All right, let's take some arts and entertainment now from our arts and entertainment desk.
A walk into the world of Alfred Dauke, a designer and the creator of Freddy Nation, a clothing brand which specializes in personalized t-shirts, baseball jackets, and beads and school bags. With Kente fabric from Ghana, Alfred brings to life these unique pieces. But why Kente? One may ask.
I started from Ghana. I schooled in the University of Ghana, Legon, and Freddy Nation started from University of Ghana.
Since childhood, Alfred says he has had a penchant for fashion and with lofty dreams of owning a clothes brand. Today, with hard work and prayers, he has set up Freddy Nation, a business he started as a student in Ghana. A graduate of sociology, geography and Chinese language from Legon University, Ghana, Alfred's versatile nature sets him apart from his peers. Though not devoid of challenges, he is teaching through it with the support of his parents and friends.
It's funny how I studied geography and Chinese language, and I'm now a tailor. These two fields don't match, but sometimes you just have to pursue your dream and go for it, even though it feels difficult or impossible. Once you're determined, you'll get there.
23-year-old Kaduna-born Alfred Dauke is a recipient of the Nigerian Teen Awards 2016. Over time, he has anchored his drive on consistency and passion.
But you should be ready to keep calm, listen, and pick corrections. Do your best to make your work stand out. You could do that just little packaging or some little services you could render, maybe delivery services. Whatever you do, just make sure you place a positive stamp on your customer's mind.
Well, let's have Alfred explore more of not just the Kente now, the Ashoke and the office of this world, and from our part of the country as well. I think that will make us truly African. Now let's join the Nigerian Meteorological Agency for what the weather forecast will be for the rest of today.
Hello viewers, I am Paul Ugba and I welcome you all to the weather forecast for Wednesday. During the morning hours, we expect cloudy conditions to prevail over most parts of the country with intervals of sunshine, except over the Mambila Plateau areas where there are chances of some localized thunderstorms. There are also light rains expected over the coastal areas of Lagos, Port Harcourt, Ijebu-Ode, and parts of Bayelsa State. And as we move into the afternoon and evening hours, we expect to see more localized thunderstorms over the extreme northern parts of the country, the central states, and also the inland cities of the south down to the coast. Please stand by now for our maximum temperature forecast.
That's our program for today. We appreciate your company. Tomorrow is another time to join us, 7 in the morning, so it should be. My name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. We appreciate you tuning into our program today. See you tomorrow.